Thank you all so much for coming and for your interest in this conversation. This is, I believe, the last of 7 community engagement meetings that have been taking place at every ward. And I know that some of you have joined all 7, and thank you for your interest. I really want to acknowledge the work of our staff, Barbara Coffey and her team, as well as Poonam, also our community bridge builders that have done such an amazing job in helping lead this conversation. I feel that this conversation needs to continue, but it's important that you all add your voices, your input, give mayor and council your advice, and we will take it from there. When I first got elected into the Tucson City Council back in November of 2007, in August of 2008, the entire country, and seemed like most of the world, went through an economic recession. And what we had been looking at in the city of Tucson is that the city of Tucson was not growing. The city of Tucson had grown in a decade, had grown about 2%. And I'm sorry, I have watery eyes this morning. I don't know why. Had grown about 2% in a decade, comparably to Sahuarita growing 270%, Marana growing 240%, Vail growing at around 100 and something percent, Oro Valley growing at 200%. So what we were looking at, besides being in a recession, we were looking at the lack of investment and growth inside the city of Tucson. And so, at the time, we didn't have an economic development office or team. So mayor and council at the time looked at how can we invest inside the city of Tucson, not just infrastructure, but in creating density. And we also wanted to see transportation-oriented development around on our corridors in the city of Tucson. If you have density, you have a much better transit system because much more people use the transit system, much healthier transit system. You have, that investment of young people wanting to live, work, and play in the same area. Much more opportunity for other modes of transportation to grow. And, you see a healthier city. And so part of the strategy in creating an economic development office was also to create incentive tools to see transit-oriented development and responsible development in the city of Tucson. And to see economic growth as well. So we created the Central Business District, the Infill Incentive District, the Primary Jobs Incentive, so that we could help our economy and we could help see investment in infrastructure and create density in our city. So that was, I'm giving you all this story because that's laying the groundwork for this conversation. And now we're facing the possibility of changing the Central Business District based on what our community wants to see happen. But we have seen an amazing trajectory of growth and transit-oriented development in the urban core with the investment of the streetcar and other city of Tucson investments. I think we've done a really wonderful job in terms of what we are seeing in our urban core in our downtown. As well, this is just a piece of the puzzle. This is just part of the conversation. I believe that we need to make sure that as we continue growing, that affordable housing is not an afterthought. When I was the representative in Ward 1, I wanted to make sure that in whatever the areas that covered Ward 1, we wanted to see affordable housing. The Sentinel Plaza for seniors, the West End Station over on the west side, and many other affordable housing projects have popped up because we want to make sure that we're planning for affordability. So with that, I'm glad that you're here. We want to hear from you. We want your input. We want your advice. And we want a productive conversation today. Thank you all for coming in. I'll hand it over to you, Poonam. Thanks.
Just as a citizen in this country, let me just honor and express gratitude to you for your service and the depth of devotion to the community that allows you to say yes, despite all the reasons not to let me serve in an elected office as a leader. So I want to just thank you for that. And to all of you, our communities work best when we are engaged. And so thank you for caring. Thank you for blocking 90 minutes that I know have competing priorities on a Saturday. So let me begin. My first name is Poonam, P-U-N-A-M. I am coming to you live from Henderson, Nevada. I've visited Tucson many times, so it is okay to refer to me as a fangirl. I am a fangirl, and it has been my distinct honor to be entrusted with the role of facilitator through now our seventh and final meeting. So let me begin by just clarifying the why we're here. The Central Business District, I'm going to repeat a lot of what you just heard. I'll do it quickly. The CBD was first adopted in 2012. It was renewed by the mayor and the city council in September for an additional 10 years. So that's happened. This spring, we hope February, March timeframe, the mayor and the council will determine, as the mayor mentioned, the future of that CBD. Should it be expanded? If so, what should the expansion look like? And if expanded, how can we determine the future boundaries? And how can we best utilize the GPLAT as a tool and process to accomplish the vision and the desires of the community? Following the council's renewal of the CBD in September, they made a very specific decision to undertake an energetic outreach effort to engage community in providing them inputs. It is about curiosity. It is about input, direction, solutions, ideas. That is earnestly their quest. So that's the why we're here, right? That's the sort of the why we are here. Now, let me talk about the how that community engagement process was designed to hopefully, meet the mission that the council and mayor laid out for us. So first, today is the last of 7 community convenings. First one was January 23rd, January 7th. The last one today is the 23rd. The key component of every one of the 7 sessions is the completion of an 9-question survey, and we will complete that today. The survey is really critical in providing input to the mayor and the council because it allows everyone the same voice, right? And so that's the point, is we want to get as many people to complete the survey. So beyond the community sessions where we've collectively completed the survey together, it also yesterday ran in your major daily paper with a plea to citizens and residents to fill it out and send it in. It is accessible on the city's website in PDF form, English and Spanish. It is available through the city offices, through every one of the ward offices. So part of the call to action to all of you is we all know people. And if we can engage 10 of our neighbors, colleagues, friends, strangers at the grocery store, let's do it. Because the more input we receive, frankly, the more pixels of information the mayor and the council have the benefit of as they make these very thoughtful and complicated decisions. We need your help. So one thing, tomorrow, I won't be tomorrow Sunday, sorry. On Monday, the fact that you are here today, on Monday, you will receive an email from the city. And that email is going to have 2 opportunities for you. One, without any limitation in terms of text length, you may submit any additional comments, any additional questions, any additional ideas that you've got. Please, please, please do that, because human nature often says, I think of what I wanted to say after my opportunity is over. So in this case, you get a second bite at the apple. Please use it. So that will be an opportunity presented in an email on Monday. Secondly, that email is going to say, hey, please indicate that you want to stay in the minivan and continue on this journey together. And we encourage you to say yes, because that will allow us to keep the engagement consistent, which the mayor and council would also like. Finally, on the city's website, all of the questions that are submitted through the email I just described, all of the questions that have been submitted through the chat features, which have been very active places for expression through all the 7 meetings, the city staff is summarizing those themes and creating a master Q&A document that is accessible and available right now on the city's website. The assumption that curiosity can benefit us all. And so the idea is to just really maximize the there you go. Thank you, Renisha. So that's the why. Describe sort of the how in terms of the overall community outreach. So now let me drill into sort of the timeline. By the end of this month, the mayor and the council will review, actually first week of next month, I think, we'll review results from all 7 community convenings, all of the results that come in through surveys, all of the comments, questions, and ideas that are submitted through the website or through the chat features. And finally, they'll receive the results of academic research that they've also commissioned. The idea is to have as many sources of input and information as possible, because that yields to most thoughtful decisions. Based on that discussion and whatever consensus direction emerges, they will then, hopefully by the end of February into March, they will have a discussion about potential expansion of the CBD and the way in which the GPLAT as a tool and process can be utilized to achieve desired results. We hope that then the staff will take that guidance, prepare it in the form of specific recommendations that somewhere by late spring, the mayor and council will take up and make decisions. That's how it works. So that's the timeline. So hopefully the why made sense, the how made sense. Now let me turn to today. We've got 4 very simple objectives for the day. First, it's really important when we talk about something as complicated and multidimensional as a CBD and a GPLAT that we all sort of level set and have the same conversation about the same topic. So we want to do a level set on the CBD and the GPLAT. So that's 1. 2, we've got a couple of really short activities to inquire as to your vision. You've got a vision for your community. What is it? We'd love to hear that. And then secondly, what are the bumps in the road that you envision we will encounter as we work towards creating that vision? So we want to get curious about your vision and your view of the challenges that get in the way. Third, we're going to focus on the CBD and the GPLAT and capture your thoughts, your perspectives, your desires, your priorities, your fears by completing that 9-question survey together. That will happen. And then finally, there's going to be some open field to let ideas be expressed in a virtual, very 20th century town hall format, right? So open discussion at the back end. So that's what we've got sort of intended as objectives for today. There's a couple of pinky promises, I'll call it, a fancy term, a couple of agreements that I just want to surface and hope that you all sort of reciprocate the pinky promise. First, we have got on this call right now, it's almost 60 people. And so with 60 people in 90 minutes, there's no math that says everyone gets 10 minutes. It isn't going to work. So vigor and brevity become the mantra. Vigor and brevity. Express it. Please do so vigorously and with brevity. 2, if you're not speaking, make sure that little mute is on so that as your dogs remind you that there's someone at the door, we don't all have to have the reminder. That would be awesome. And then third, the chat function is accessible on the bar at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free. Whatever thoughts emerge, stick them in there, because that's the one way in which we can capture them. The city staff, we're monitoring that chat at all times. So if there's easy to answer questions, you will have instant responses to those questions placed into the chat. So please use that. And then finally, I look around and I see some familiar faces. I know that some of you are going to earn the Subway sandwich for attending all the meetings. So good for you. And we've also therefore had the benefit of hearing from you. And so I really want to encourage those who are coming for the first time or have not had a chance to express their perspective and view. I want to grant you bigger permission. And in return, I'm going to ask those of you that have had the ability to have your views heard to please use the chat or respond in the email on Monday. One very special feature of this entire community engagement process is three human beings, actually, three individuals. We call them bridge builders. The mayor referenced them, and that's literally their role. Their job is to build bridges of engagement throughout the entire process. All three of these people are deeply rooted in the community. They've got long time devotion, and equally importantly, they're well versed in the topics that we're discussing. And so it makes them uniquely qualified to ensure the widest outreach and engagement of all sectors of the community. They're going to also be, they'll have a role to play in the preparation of the recommendations that are going to be presented to the mayor and the council. So to just kick us off today, I just want each of the three of them to quickly say hello and give us this much. That's a technical definition. This much. Tell us this much about who you are. Let's get, so I didn't curate this. So Frankie, I'm looking at you. So why don't I turn to you and say, hi, Frankie.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. Today is our last meeting, so my role is to listen to the recommendations, get back to the city and include it in our final presentation. So I'm looking for specific recommendations today. My background is in small business. I run the Women's Business Center, and I'm here to listen, to take notes. So brevity, right? So we're looking for specific recommendations, and thank you for having me.
Great, thank you, welcome. Who'd like to go next?
Hi, my name is Sharia Jimenez. I also go by Shay. I am also a small business owner, Cuadro, and I am here also to listen. And I've been here in Tucson for 5 generations, so I understand, I think, both the fears of the community, but also thank you, Mayor, for that great introduction and also reminding us of how challenged we are economically in Tucson. And as a young family and thinking about the future for my son, I think these are really important things to consider.
Beautiful, welcome, Shay. And the last member of the team.
Good morning, I'm Corky Poster. I'm an architect and planner with Poster Murto McDonald. I've had a 47-year career in Tucson doing neighborhood planning, neighborhood development, affordable housing, and historic preservation. Currently working on the Thrive in the 05 Choice Neighborhood Program to make improvements in the area north of Speedway on the west side. And really happy to be here. Really interested in listening to new and creative ideas from the smart people on this call. Thank you.
Right, welcome. Thank you, Bridge Builders, for the consistency of your activation. So let's get on to today's agenda. The first objective I said was a shared understanding. The mayor mentioned a little bit of the history of the CBD, but we've got two people who are just going to give you an overview what the CBD is, where it's been, what it's accomplished. And so to do that, let's get people that really know that stuff. So you're going to hear from Barbara Coffey, who is your Director of Economic Initiative of the city, and from Corin Manning, who is the Planning Administrator at Planning and Development Services. So Shiro team, Barbara, why don't you take it away, Barbara?
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Poonam. And thank you, Mayor, for hosting this morning. It's been quite a journey. The 7 meetings now are fantastic and very well attended. And again, apologies for those of you who have seen some of these slides before, but I think, again, thinking about those who are joining us for the first time, it's important that we give some of this foundational information. So looking at your screen right now, what you're seeing in the area shaded in red is the Central Business District. It was created by state statutes in accordance with the requirements in the statute. It is a contiguous geographical boundary. It is not more than 2.5% of the total land area of the city. Again, as Poonam mentioned in the introduction, it was renewed. The existing Central Business District was renewed in September last year. So the one tool that the creation of a Central Business District provides for by Arizona law is the ability to utilize the government property lease excise tax, or GPLET as we call it. And that program was designed to help facilitate reinvestment in an area, to create opportunities to facilitate development and redevelopment of property within its boundaries. So since 2013, the mayor and council have approved 23 GPLET projects with the 8-year tax abatement. Now, just to give you a sense of how that has worked, the pre-GPLET value total of all of those 23 parcels roughly $40 million. But after development and the estimated idea, so when we go through this process and look at these programs and projects that come before us, we do economic impact analysis. So estimated post-GPLET values post-development are north of $220 million. Now, when we looked at 2020 assessed valuations, and we had an opportunity to do that last year and share that with Mayor and Council during a report out and an update, we saw that those projects have achieved assessed valuation totaling just north of $90 million. So you can see that it's already working in the way that it was designed to do so. And again, that does not include the projects not yet constructed and on the tax rolls. Of those 23 projects, all but 5 have received their certificate of occupancy, so there are a few under construction. All but 3 have been developed by local entities or development firms. All but 1 GPLET project has achieved that 100% evaluation, so that the outlier there is now at 93% of its increase in value, entering its 4th year of the abatement period. So what has the program achieved in terms of development? We have seen 8 converted parking lots now developed. We have seen 5 of the projects activate vacant buildings. 5 of the projects have been involved with rehabilitation or preservation of historic building. 1 of the projects was developed on a vacant lot, but none of the projects have replaced any single-family residential. So pictures always do better storytelling than anything that I could do. So I want you to, and many of you recognize some of these places, but this is an example of one of the parking lots that was converted into now what is the Trinity office project that opened last year and is now leasing. This is a picture of what was a former Motel 6 property, and certainly it is showing its decline and deterioration. Well, last July 4th, just in the middle of the pandemic, we saw the opening of the Tucson Boutique Hotel in its place. So again, another opportunity of redevelopment for a site that was certainly in need. And this is a project that involves some historic preservation. This structure was built back in 1952. It was the home to First Baptist Church School. And it was vacant for quite some time and falling into disrepair. Now it is home to the headquarters for Tucson's very own Mr. Car Wash. And so it provided an opportunity for an eyesore there in downtown to become more of an icon. And then speaking of icons, this is our tallest building in Tucson. One South Church is the location there. Right at the hard corner, you'll see somewhat underutilized corner for downtown. Now it is home to the Rendezvous Urban Flats, featuring 100 residential units there in downtown, adding on to a lot of the other residential construction that is certainly going on in and around it, and which we enjoy because it provides that 24/7 opportunity for residents to be in the downtown and enliven the activity, support the small businesses that are around it. But I say all of that not to say that there aren't challenges, right? So not everything is all rosy. Not everything is the way we would have it be. One of those challenges is the language in the state statutes regarding the slum and blight requirement for designation of a central business district. The terms slum and blight are downright offensive. We've heard that from many. We all feel that when none of us wants our neighborhood or our place that we live to be have that moniker attached to it. So it's something that we've given a lot of thought, that as future opportunities to maybe change that with legislators is certainly on the radar. Also, it's important to note that the GPLET program is simply one tool. It alone does not create all the problems, nor does it solve all the issues. So again, something to keep in mind as we think about how development has occurred throughout the downtown area and the central business district. And then finally, the affordable housing projects that we often find that there's certainly a strong priority around, and there's a desire to have more housing options in the community, especially in the downtown area. That this tool, the GPLET, may not be the most effective way or even be able to be utilized in those developments. So again, think about other programs that do support affordable housing, like the low-income housing tax credit, LIHTC as we call it. Again, there are others on this call that know far more about that. Corky's one of those, but can comment on why we have challenges there. So with that, I want to turn it over to my partner at Planning and Development Services, Corinne Manning. She's been with us every step of the way and has certainly some good information to share with you about some other things that have helped assist development in the Central Business District. With that, Corinne.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm Corinne Manning, Planning Administrator for the City of Tucson Department of Planning and Development Services. Like Barbara said, the GPLET, or the Central Business District, is just one tool. It doesn't do everything. So I wanted to share just a little bit more about that larger context of tools that we have and utilize in Tucson to support more sustainable urban infill development in our downtown area and kind of the greater downtown within the CBD. And this ties to what the mayor shared earlier. The story of how our city made a very intentional decision about 10 years ago with that major investment in the streetcar to support more sustainable, denser urban infill development. So the streetcar was obviously a centerpiece of that, and obtaining the funding for the streetcar came about as a result of years of advocacy by community members and elected officials like our mayor and council members. And so at the same time that we were building that streetcar and planning for that major investment, we also put in place tools like the Infill Incentive District, which is a set of zoning regulations to support that type of transit-oriented development to complement the streetcar and really drive ridership and greater activity in our downtown area. The other piece of that was the financial incentives, which the Central Business District and GPLET are a big part of, but there are other financial incentives in the downtown area as well, like the Rio Nuevo District. So all of these pieces are really meant to work together. The GPLET does not work in isolation. It works along with those transportation investments and zoning regulations. So the Infill Incentive District is one of our most powerful zoning tools because it does allow that transit-oriented development and pedestrian-oriented mixed-use development in downtown. And it's often used by projects that use the GPLET. So I want to just touch on what this does. So it allows more mixed-use development in downtown. Projects must meet specific design standards to ensure really high-quality development and active uses in downtown, and also has to adhere to historic preservation standards to preserve that unique historic fabric that makes downtown and other corridors like 4th Avenue so unique, such unique places for Tucson. The IID was established by Mayor and Council in 2010, so around the same time as the streetcar and the CBD, again, part of this a larger strategy for our downtown area. And there have been modifications over time, just like we're looking at the Central Business District now, potentially making some changes to make sure that it is providing the tools that we need for Tucson. We've made modifications to the IID over time. So in 2015, Mayor and Council made some significant changes. They put in stricter design standards, stronger design standards, and also changed the regulations around student housing. Previously, student housing projects could use this tool. That was not really in line with the larger strategy and vision for how our community wanted to use this tool. So that's now only allowed through special exception. Since that special exception was put in place, student housing projects have requested to use the IID. And then most recently, when the IID was renewed by Mayor and Council in 2019, we had a lot of conversation around housing and affordable housing and how the IID was helping meet housing needs for our community. So Mayor and Council requested that we conduct a housing study to look closer at those issues and start to develop some strategies. We've been working on that study and are actually in the final phases now, and that will help inform policy for downtown and the entire city moving forward. The IID covers a very similar area as the Central Business District because these are meant to work in concert. It covers downtown and several of the commercial corridors coming out of downtown. It does not cover any residential neighborhoods, the core part of residential neighborhoods, because it's really designed to spur more commercial development and mixed use development along commercial corridors. IID has helped us produce many housing units for downtown, driving a lot of new residents and activity in the area, with a lot of new commercial space and jobs in the area as well. Many of the projects that use the IID are actually what we call minor projects. These are usually small businesses that use the IID to expand their business, stay in the downtown area, like Time Market, Cirrus Visual, Sand Reckoner. Some of these real legacy businesses in our community have used the IID. So here's an example kind of looking at the other side of that intersection that Barbara showed us with Rendezvous. This is Stone and Broadway. Before the streetcar, we had a lot of surface parking in downtown, like you see on the left there. And then on the corner on the right, there was kind of an outdated office building and some smaller scale office. Over time, both of these corners have used the IID to redevelop. So on the left, you see the Westerner and West Point apartments. That is new senior affordable housing, 50 units of senior housing. And next door, that office building, a historic building, has been rehabbed and is now reused as new offices. It's right along a streetcar stop, so people can use the streetcar to get to their office, to their home, for a lot of uses. And then on the other corner, we have One West Broadway, which is another mixed-use project with ground floor medical office, bringing some needed services to downtown with housing above. Here's an example of one of those smaller projects. This is on North Stone, just north of downtown. This was an auto use that had been vacant for some years. And through the IID, it was able to be rehabbed and adaptively reused so that Cirrus Visual could expand their offices and create new offices for their employees. This also used the GPLET to provide the financial incentives for that project. So again, the IID allows for the kind of development standards for these projects, the envelope of what can be built, and then the GPLET provides the financial incentives. And in that way, these tools work together to support more sustainable infill development in our downtown area and beyond. With that, back to you, Poonam.
Thank you, Barbara and Corin. Let me just quickly, the mayor lifted you up and expressed gratitude. You have done a remarkable job through all 7, so I just want to props to both of you. Okay, let's get to work. Ready? For those of you that may not be Zoomiacs, I don't know what the word is, but I just made it up. I want you to find your chat, because now we want to hear from you, and we want to hear from you in the chat. So down at the bottom, there's a little bubble. Click it, says chat. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to limit your response to 1 word. Apologizing in advance. Here's the question. Think about the word. Zoom out. It is now January 23rd, 2021. Think about something a decade from now, 2030, 2031, a decade from now. In 1 word, which adjective would you like to claim as a description of Tucson a decade from now, in 2030, 2031? Or asking it slightly different ways, what do you want to be true about our community a decade from now? Or asking it another way, what is 1 promise that you want to leave, that you want to keep and deliver to a generation that will be born between now and then, a decade from now? So in 1 word, what are those words? Let's hear them. And while we're doing that, so Sandra, I'm going to call on a few of you. Sandra, I see the word.
Okay,
I can hear you, Sandra.
I'm sorry. What was the question? My microphone beeped out.
So you answered, your response was growth. So just give us a thumbnail as to what that means to you. What does growth mean?
Growth means keeping the GPLET in place. It has actively grown downtown Tucson. I am a native Tucsonan. I worked in the 1980s downtown, and after 5 o'clock, it was gone. People left. So there wasn't anything to do. So you had to be very careful if you worked downtown. And to me, having this G-plet in place, you have seen the growth, you have seen the revitalization of Tucson. And I appreciate that the mayor and council throughout the years have taken this very seriously and saying, if we approve this project, does it make sense for Tucson? What do we get in return? So they have clearly put a lot of thought into approving downtown projects. So I would love the G-plet to continue, and by having that in place, we do help our local developers. Our economy will continue to grow. So that's my growth.
That is what growth means to Sandra Barton. And thank you for multitasking and being so responsive when I called on you with no notice. So is it, I don't know, I'm going to mispronounce it and I hate that when that happens. Is it favor or favor? You got the word equality, and I want to understand what does that community that embodies equality mean to you?
Buenos días. This is Josefina Cárdenas. Equality to me is that a balance, because yes, our mayor and council members have done greatness, but there's still the other balance of barrio investments and our homelessness that we need to bring into the picture, that within these years, I know it's not going to be mañana, but it'll be years before we have a balance, equality for all our areas that need to be invested in our own pueblo and preserve our history, our heritage within those developments.
Beautiful.
Gracias. Thank you for asking.
One quick note, conjunctions matter. And so there's a powerful difference between the word but and the word and, right? Because the second I insert a but, everything that precedes but is no longer possible. If I acknowledge complexity and insert and, it's all true. So can we grow and honor history? Can we have businesses benefit and have residents benefit? If we keep with the word and, the answer is of course we can, because we will figure it out. The second we insert but, it is game over to half the solution. Then we're just doing this, right? So that was a beautiful reminder. So what you see now are a summary of all of the awesome responses that you had, and what an amazing place our community is going to be a decade from now, because all of you are declaring it. All of you are going to be working to create it. There's no doubt in my mind you will achieve it. So the larger the word, the more frequently it was included in the responses. So thank you for that. Next question. We're going to go back to the chat. You still have the same limitation of one word, but here's the question. What do you think is the biggest challenge that we as a community will face in achieving that awesome vision that we just articulated? What's going to get in our way? What are the things that we're going to have to manage and muddle through? What are those challenges? So Kelly, yours was very specific. Kelly McClure, I'm going to turn to you. Water resource issues. Give us a vigor and brevity. Tell us what that means to you. How do we...
I am very concerned about the long-term future of water in the entire desert area, and in particular in a town like this, which is a growth city, as more and more people want to move here.
Very good. Okay. So we need to manage through that in order to achieve the vision that we have, right?
Yes.
That's what you mean. That's great. Joe, is it Joseph Cobell? Quickly add a little bit more color to what poverty represents as a challenge. What do we have to work through?
Mainly low wages. I'm a member of Local 1912 Carpenters Union, and one of the things we struggle with is competing, our contractors competing with low wage and benefit contractors. So my thoughts are that we would like to see, I would like to see more responsible contractors, more contractors working on these projects that pay area standard wages and benefits. That's my concern.
Good.
Thank you.
That is a challenge, and we can manage it to benefit. That would be the point. Okay. What a bunch of great answers in here. Gary Braub, I'm just going to turn to you. Tell me what politics, how does that get in our way?
Well, I think the political will of the community ties up many agendas with trying to achieve global solutions instead of focusing on the specific of one area, getting it done and moving on to the next. You can't achieve everything at the same time.
Yeah, listen, we have that as life experience, right? I raised children, and I learned early on that there's times when me has to be substituted with we, or we get nothing accomplished, right? So here you go. Here are the words that came up. These are all challenges, right? So now we are sort of, both are true. We have a vision that is compelling. We see it the same way. We all believe it and want to work to achieving it. And guess what? Heads up, pragmatically, there's some stuff that's going to get in the way. And so then the choice we make is we're going to behave like water. We're going to keep flowing, even though it's a limited resource in our area, but we're going to keep flowing. Water never meets a rock and says, this rock is too big, I choose not to go any further. It just doesn't do that. It just keeps innovating and collaborating and, you know, seeking to keep moving. So thank you for that. Now we're going to stroll through the survey. And so we're going to change up from the chat. It's a slightly different. So here's how it's going to work. We have a test question. Let's put it up, because now rather than the chat, you'll see a pop-up with the question just for you. And there it is. So this is the test one. It's not a pass or fail test, but you get the point. Please answer it. When you answer it, your submit button will turn red. You hit submit. Real time, that response comes back. We can then show you exactly what the 60 of us on this call feel in this moment. That's what we're looking at. So in the first question, hallelujah, everyone's breathing, so that's good news. You've completely gotten the point. So let's go to the second question, please. And many of these questions are sort of not conducive to further discussion. How long have you lived in Tucson? So we're just going to roll through the ones that don't lend themselves to discussion so that we can save time to discuss the ones that are more conducive. How long have you lived here? Yeah, this is mind-boggling. And for you, this is just who you are. It's the length. Like, this is what we've seen in all 7 meetings. I live in a place where 3% are natives. And so you are exactly the other way around. Like, it is, and that's a huge asset. So it's a beautiful thing. So I just honor that. Next question, please. Do you live in the existing CBD? Central Business District. So most of you, 2/3 of you do not, but out of 60 on this call, 1/4 of you do. So that's good to know. Next question, please. So we suspect that you've all been to downtown or the CBD. So what took you there? What was the magnet? Why do you go there? Choose as many as apply to you. Wow. Okay. So you've got several really important reasons. And as has been what we've seen pretty consistently, this is about connection, community connection, fellowship, experiences made together. As you talk about bars and restaurants, taking care of business, libraries, courts, city, shopping, entertainment, museums, art. So that just speaks to the love that is sort of part of the DNA around the Tucson community. Next question, please. Thinking about the streetcar, what is your perception of the streetcar's influence on downtown Tucson? Okay, so that's a solid thumbs up, Madam Mayor. And if I add up very positive and somewhat positive, it's almost 2/3, better than half. Next question, please. So the mayor mentioned this. She said that affordable and workforce housing is their #1 priority. So the question here is, which statement reflects your opinion of their priority? Wow. So that is a pretty large thumbs up to the mayor and the council to say, yeah, emphatically, almost 85% between have agreement that that is a #1 priority. So Corky, do you want to express a little curiosity among the group here around housing? Because you are the housing dude. I don't think that's what it says on your business card, but you know what I mean.
Yes, thanks, Poonam. The three bridge builders were hoping to open up this conversation a little bit for the last 45 minutes of the discussion. And I wanted to remind folks what Barbara Coffey said and what Corin Manning said. One is that the CBD is a geographic area, and that is one of the discussions we're having today. Corin clearly stated that the IID is a tool within the CBD, as is the GPLET, a tool within the CBD. We all understand that both the IID, that's done a lot for affordable housing, and the GPLET, which is structurally unable to participate in the biggest affordable housing program in the country, the low-income housing tax credit, for very legal and structural reasons. But I want to ask the folks on the call to stretch their brain a little bit and think about what other things we can do within the CBD that meet your goals and that can actually accomplish things that we haven't yet accomplished. In terms of, I'm going to lead the conversation on affordable housing, but Sharia and Frankie are going to talk a little bit about economic development later on. So my question really to the group is, if the how do we do the kinds of affordable housing you'd like to see in the CBD, and what tools the mayor and council need to be able to accomplish that? Our job is to transmit those ideas to the mayor and council. So I'd like to use this time to open up a kind of a deeper conversation about what you all have expressed as a high priority on that last poll question. So who'd like to start us off?
Ted's hand is up.
Yeah, I'll be
okay. Yeah, sorry, I don't see those hands. So okay. if you could unmute yourself just in an orderly way, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I've unmuted, and I'm going to turn on my video here so you can see the mural in the background. But you know, I posed this question to Dan Ranieri over at La Frontera, and they build more affordable housing than anybody in the state of Arizona, low-income housing using low-income housing tax credits. And he had 3 or 4 suggestions that I thought I'd share here. One is that there are Section 8 vouchers, which are used for affordable housing projects. And the problem isn't necessarily a lack of Section 8 vouchers. The city has a finite number of those to give out, but rather increasing the speed with which applicants are processed through the system. Because he says a big part of the problem is people can't get through the system fast enough in order to get the vouchers to get into the affordable housing. So that's number one. Secondly, we can assist and incentivize low-income housing projects in areas where development is prioritized, including the acquisition of land parcels. So the city council can decide where it wants to prioritize affordable workforce housing. Maybe downtown is not the right place to do it. The cost of construction is 2 to 3 times as high as it is elsewhere. But that's a political decision. But wherever it's prioritized, maybe the city can set aside land that it owns or make it available for low-income housing, and that can help increase the stock. Third, we can lobby the Arizona Department of Housing for additional low-income tax credits. And finally, the city can look for affordable housing funds in the new stimulus legislation, and you can lobby for it too. I mean, that's an ongoing conversation in Washington, and affordable housing might be part of that legislation. So look for those funds and look for ways to utilize them.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Ted. That's my hand hurts from all the notes I just took. So thank you so much.
If I could dovetail on Ted's comments.
Go for it, Larry.
Thank you. 2 of those comments, the Arizona Department of Housing and the LIHTC, one of the key issues there is process. And one of the weaknesses of the Arizona Department of Housing is a lack of staffing period to process the LIHTC process. That is part of an issue that we need to address. If we can do that, I think we're going to see a great deal of additional, or actually start investment into this area, into the state, and by default, it'll also occur in Tucson. So that's a target from our effort at the Arizona legislature, as well as the IDA's analysis of where are the obstacles to additional LIHTC activity. It's in the housing department itself. And I love the idea of the new administration hopefully paying more attention to this issue and allowing additional resources to be brought into play for communities such as the city of Tucson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Corky, Tatiana in the chat had a very simple idea, so I'm going to ask her to step into the Zoom world and just share it, if she wouldn't mind.
Hello, everybody. So my idea is to build more projects with mixed income housing. I think it just address equality way more when we don't separate people by income in separate project. Thank you.
That's great. And Tatiana, what is your connection to, do you live in the CBD? Are you a business owner?
No, I am not. Yes, I am a business owner. I am a local architect.
Great, thank you.
Other comments before we move on?
I see we got A&M have hands up.
Unmute and go for it.
All right. Hi. I think, I really appreciate Joe raising this point and Ted's comment and kind of Tatiana's comment about not having segregated spaces for low-income housing. It definitely needs to be more of a mixed housing approach. And I think that what we're getting at here in one of the questions with GPLETs is, are we supposed to be assuming the risk? Is it the city's role to assume the risk for developers? And that is effectively what GPLETs are doing, is removing risk for developers to relocate in an area, versus looking at what we've been raising and what we're trying to have in this community discussion about removing the barriers and removing the development practices and approaches that have led to the conditions that we're currently in, versus just trying to work within those and incentivize people to develop differently. We need to fundamentally change what is allowed. And I don't think we're going to get much further and solve any affordable housing crisis if we don't address those core barriers.
Thank you, Amanda. Poonam, you want to go to the next question?
Do it.
We have lots of time for discussion.
We do. This is Rich. Thank you. all so much. Let's go to the next question, please. Okay, so in addition to affordable workforce housing, what other types of investment should be a key priority for the mayor and council in the downtown area? Check all that apply on this one, scroll down because there's a few options that you don't see unless you scroll down. Okay, wow. Top two, and they're bright red, 82%. Renovation and reuse of existing buildings. Mayor, this is a priority we have seen now 7 times in a row. And safer streets and better connectivity has been right up there. So clearly there is a community-wide sensibility that really cherishes these two as priorities. And the community would say, yep, keep them really high on your list. Okay, next question, please. Now we're thinking about the geography, right? So what areas around downtown do you want the mayor and council to focus on for investment? And again, choose all that apply. Miracle Mile, the 05, is out by itself a little bit, followed fairly closely by the I-10 frontage. And then a little bit further behind, west of I-10, Mercado District, south 6th Avenue, 5 Points, and then finally north 4th Avenue, downtown Lakes. This is valuable input for the mayor and council as they contemplate the future of the CBD. So thank you. Okay, here's our last question. And this is the one that we want to have. We want to get inside your brains about this. This is all about the community benefits, right? So what types of community benefits do you believe should accompany the GPLED assisted development projects? Like, how do you want to use it? What's the ROI that you want community to receive, right? Oh, wow. Okay. Another fairly resounding theme. I think in all but one meeting, Madam Mayor, small and local business job creation has been the #1 response, followed very closely, I think pretty consistently between attainable housing options, environmental sustainability, historic preservation, and adaptive reuse. So no one disagrees with any of these priorities. Here's the thing we got to collectively solve for is the how. So what ideas do we have? No one's going to say, no, these are a bad idea. Everyone agrees. The question is, what do we do? So please, specific ideas, that's what we're looking for. And because it is about provision of opportunity to small businesses, Frankie, between you and Shay, can you sort of apply your expertise and wisdom?
Thank you, Poonam. So we're trying to make the most out of this opportunity. So I know we have business owners in the conversation. So what would you like to see with the expansion of the CBD? What kind of opportunities should be created to benefit the small local businesses? So if I would like to take take some feedback and some input from the participants.
And I would say for those of you that are business owners who have wanted to participate and have been unable or unsuccessful,
Now is the time.
Put that in your way. Like, what was the problem?
I'll go.
Please.
Hi, this is Wilda. It's nice to see you here with us, Mayor Romero. What I would like to see as a small business owner, and I have been since 2008, it's been really difficult for me to get financing. And I'm into small development right now, in addition to the other things I do. So what I would like to see is, I know that Senora Villega mentioned yesterday that there are some entities in town, she mentioned a couple, that provide funding for small businesses. I have checked with one of them, and it's not enough what they are able to provide, or what that one is able to provide. So I'm thinking if perhaps figuring out a way to help small business owners apply for funding, perhaps using some of that funding in order to prepare a package for a bank, let's say, who would see that there is some funding to start out, and in some way supported by the city, or whatever office in the city.
I got it.
Because it's not enough to learn how to prepare the package, but that's another problem. Is small business owners, because of the lack of experience with this, do need help with filling out all of the paperwork. So I guess helping us be able to combine financing to apply, and then helping us to apply. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
I think we got.
I did not hear your question. Something about it on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you. So I believe what I heard her say is that small businesses need access to capital. They need sort of coaching and support to be game day ready, to go after the opportunity. And so that's valuable. That is valuable. And to be clear, that's actually like the GPLAT tool is a tax abatement. So that is outside what GPLAT could do, but that is valuable input, I think, for the mayor.
Thank you, Hilda.
They contemplate it, yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, to follow up on that, I just like to put a plug in for Barbara Coffey's group and Mike, I can't pronounce his last name, but the economic development team over at the city. If you're a small business and you want to know how to make an application for a GPLAT, they can help you walk through that process. And that is a mechanism that's in place and available, and they're very good at it. So anybody watching that's a small business and you need help, talk to them because they'll help you.
On their behalf, I will appreciate the plug. And I know they do.
This is Kelly. I'm in the 05 district, Miracle Mile area, business owner.
Right.
And I know this may sound redundant, but we feel very strongly, we've been there 9 years. Not much has happened over there other than our own business, bringing entertainment to the area and some revitalization. The persistent lack of a broad, long-term plan to address homelessness, we feel very strongly that this is an impediment to all of these kinds of projects in this area. It's not going to get better. We know that the city is doing some very positive things, but we're thinking that we'd like to recommend something much more broad across the county and the city, so that people and developers can see where we are headed with this rather than Band-Aid approaches, etc. I honestly don't expect it to get any better. over time, just looking at the economic factors in the United States. And without that direction, especially in our area, I don't think we're going to see more investors wanting to do any of these kinds of projects. The property's there to do it in many, many different ways, but the lack of interest is high. And I do feel that that's one of the #1 impediments. And without a very clear-cut long-range plan, I don't see that changing.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Anybody else?
I just wanted to call on a few other people who haven't spoken, but I've seen a few times, maybe Genesis or I don't know who else is on here. Hannah, maybe. We haven't heard from you all. Nathaniel, maybe. Anybody?
Hi, this is Hannah. Hello. I'm living in Iron Horse, and I think for Iron Horse, we're interested in small businesses, housing that's affordable and well built, environmental sustainability with the change in the climate and lack of water resources. I think those are things we're interested here too. And homelessness is, I know Tucson's really working on that as well. Thank you.
Who else did you call on? Shay, who else did you call out?
I was hoping to hear from Genesis because I've seen you on here a few times and I'd like to hear just from other perspectives.
Hi everyone. My name is Genesis. I'm part of the mayor's staff and we're really here just to listen to everyone's input. I'm taking notes while everyone's talking, but thank you for the chance.
Okay, sorry, I didn't realize you were staff.
So I want to turn to those of you who are resident citizens who made an hour and a half to be here today. But I think part of what often happens to citizens is they get intimidated by the expertise that is also on the call. So I want to just give you permission to just say what's on your heart. Forget whether you've got an advanced degree in urban planning or not, right? But you clearly care enough to spend an hour and a half on a Saturday. So love to hear from you. Any of you.
I can speak.
Please.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I appreciate the mayor and everyone else participating in this. My name is Scott Egan. I am a member of the Barrio Neighborhood Coalition and a member of the El Rio Coalition and a board member of the Barrio Hollywood Neighborhood Association. So these are issues that are very important to our residents here. I would like to just read something very, very briefly here. This is a quote. I believe that the city of Tucson needs to restructure the economic initiatives available to private developers. The GPLET, which was designed to bring development to blighted areas, no longer serves this purpose in our thriving downtown. This means we are due to revisit the incentives and assess whether they are serving the people of Tucson as well as those moving to Tucson. That's a quote from then candidate for mayor, Regina Romero. And I was very encouraged when she said that, because she was running for mayor then. That would be nice to see, her honoring her comments that she made while she was running for office. And then the second thing I'd like to point out is that my council member, Elaine Santa Cruz, had made a motion and the majority of the city council approved this motion. And that motion, I'll read to you very briefly, was what were the racial and economic equity impacts of the GPLET developments? Who benefits from and who's burdened by the development? Did the development help toward build a just, equitable, and sustainable future? What were the lessons learned and the recommendations for future consideration? She called for a health impact assessment. She said, and this is important, an equity assessment incentivizing development that is specific to attain affordable housing, neighborhood scale job creation, including small businesses, emerging business incubators, and worker-owned cooperatives. This was passed last year. Why have we not heard anything?
Scott, here's my question of you. So we just all heard you. Here's my question to you is,
I can have a ball.
Get it later. Where did you get this?
In the kitchen closet.
if you could please mute yourself, that would be helpful. Thank you. So Scott, I'm gonna turn to you because at some point I hear you, and what I didn't hear was anything that then translates into a solution, right? And so there's a difference between being right and doing right. And I think the intention here is to do right. And so I'll stipulate the points you just made. Okay, but then what? So what do we do with that? If you've got a solution, let's hear it, right? Because otherwise, no one benefits, nothing is changed, nothing's improved, nothing's different, right?
Yes.
To channel that clear passion, clear commitment, like that's so I can hear that resonating. I want you to channel that into specific, what do we do then? What do we do then? It isn't just about make sure people feel really poorly about what you want to convey that they feel poorly about. That's not valuable to communities at all.
You're right. You're correct.
On Monday, when you get that email, sir, I want you to spend the time. It's not 140 character limit. I want you to put in the ideas. Okay?
If I could just speak for a second. When the three bridge builders agreed to participate in this, the purpose was precisely the quotes that Scott read. That is, certainly both Regina and Councilmember Santa Cruz, the mayor and Councilmember Santa Cruz were very supportive of this process, specifically to address exactly the issues that Councilmember Santa Cruz brought up in your quote, and precisely to revisit the question of the GPLET and the CBD precisely in the mayor's quote from running for office. So we're in that process. This is it. This is the 7th meeting, and we've heard a huge amount of input, specifically follow up to the 2 quotes that you read. So I appreciate your comments. Thanks.
So I'm going to start to people that we haven't heard from. And I know that the strategy is if I don't turn my camera on, maybe she won't call on me, but you've given up 90 minutes. So I'm curious as to why. So Mary Ellen Brown, I see you out there.
Yes, so thank you for inviting me to join the conversation. I've just been really excited to listen. I am the director of the Office of Community Health, Engagement, and Resiliency with Arizona State University, and work with Shreya and Quirky and the mayor's office on the O5 project, driving the O5. And it's just been really exciting to hear about the passion for building the Central Business District, creating more opportunities for affordable housing across Tucson. So I've just really been listening and taking notes and appreciating learning from all of you.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. So Joe, I want to Joe Audino, come on into the Zoom because you've been very active in the chat. So I received your message. Thank you for it. It starts with a big no. It's to me. Yeah, so I want to be clear. There's nothing in anything I would suggest that says a perspective is wrong. What I am going to observe is whether a perspective is productive. And so I'd love you to share sort of how can we move from, how can we, I think what the mayor and council are looking for is input, solutions, ideas to maximize benefit and manage challenges for greatest benefit to the community, right? There's no set of answers, but sure it'd be great to hear some of the solutions you might offer.
So I'll try for some brevity this time. I know I'm bad at it, but
we believe in you, Joe. Go.
So I think there's a lot of these programs that are worth talking about, and I think we just had a whole discussion about our PCHIF programs. That I think these discussions belong in that kind of a framework. And we've had 7 of these meetings, and we go off, talking about affordable housing, when right at the top we say, hey, these programs aren't designed for affordable housing. They can't do affordable housing. The CBD and GPLET have nothing to do with that. And if these meetings are about the expansion of the Central Business District, I just wanted to back Scott and say, you know what? If your comment is that this isn't working and we need to stop it and do something different, then I think that's good information for our city council and for the mayor to hear. And I hope that if people have that feedback, they're giving it on the surveys, and that we've got that in the chat. And as we talk about other programs for economic development, that's great, but they don't have to relate to the CBD. They don't have to relate to the G-Plat, especially when we say that the goals of those programs aren't the goals of the CBD and the G-Plat.
Fair enough, fair enough. So I would agree with everything you said, and I would extend the first point to include a second half, and that is absolutely it's okay to say, I don't think that the CBD is productive. I don't think the G-Plat is useful. It's tough though for a mayor and a council to do anything with that observation, right? It is most helpful when that phrase continues with, and here is what I would suggest instead, right? And I think
the decision on the expansion or contraction of the central business district and continuation of the G-Plat programs with that information. And my impression is that that's what these meetings were for. And that's why I think those are valid.
Fair enough. Good point. And Joe, by the way, I think you have 100% attendance. So get your card. You may very well get a Subway sandwich. I'm not sure. Camilla, I see your hand up. Gary, I see your hand up. So let's go to Camilla next, and then we'll go to Gary. Thank you, Joe.
Good morning, everybody. Camila Martins Beckett. And full disclosure, I used to work for the City of Tucson Economic Initiatives Office. I just wanted to say that I think, when the G-Plat was developed, it was the right tool for the right time. And I think that it's been modified a couple of times to include the G-Plat rent, which means the tool is evolving with the needs of the community. And I think we've reached a point where the tool needs to evolve again. And I say evolve because I don't think it's something that should go away. And I hear the concerns being brought out by a lot of the people on this phone call, and I'm sure the other phone calls as well. And, there are a lot of issues that are being brought up that aren't meant to be addressed or solved or even contemplated with this tool. And there are other tools that the mayor and council can utilize, such as, some land use tools that can go part of the way in solving some of the issues that we've identified here. That said, I think that the information garnered from the individuals that have taken the time to attend these meetings, such as, what should be the community benefit from somebody that is utilizing the G-Plat. So I know that you've kind of highlighted the need for actionable steps. And so a suggestion that I would make is to identify a way to create a fund. People that take advantage of the G-Plat, they pay now a G-Plat rent. Look at making modifications to that, and maybe those individuals pay into a fund, and that fund then goes to addressing those priority needs that the people on these engagement meetings have identified, so that we can kind of pool the funds from all of these projects to actually create something that might be impactful to solve some of the issues that have been identified. Whether it be money that's set aside for public open space or money that goes toward affordable housing or historic preservation, that's yet to be decided by the community, but that would just be one suggestion that I have, because I do feel like the G-Plat is a useful tool for development. And while it is generally those with a deeper bench financially that are able to take advantage of this, we can't overlook the fact that those people then allow small businesses to go into their properties to then employ local people, and the benefits do pass on in one form or another. So there are ways to continue to have the GPLET tool in place while also bringing the benefits that, you know, this group has highlighted. Thank you.
Super, thank you. Thank you. Oh, there was another hand up, but then it went away. Oh, Gary, it was you. Gary?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. It's been a really good conversation this morning. I think a lot of stuff has been covered. As far as why you don't see a lot more development downtown utilizing the GPLET and the CBD is because all the low-hanging fruit has been taken downtown. The parcels that remain and the opportunities remain are just more expensive. And so it requires a concept that is economically feasible relative to a business pro forma. People want more retail downtown, but you need more people for more retail. Retail rarely comes first. People have to be there and then retail opens up. So what the city can do is expand the GPLET to create new areas and new opportunities for development and the utilization of that to encourage it. And it's not just a simple, answer. It's a very complex situation relative to economic development and the risks involved. The GPLET and the CBD don't ensure anything. They just create an environment where business can take a chance to do development and see if it'll work. But it's very, very risky when you do development. And there's no free ride because of either the CBD or the GPLET. It's just a tool that helps stimulate economic development. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Who else? Ideas, responses, thoughts.
This is Rick Kaufman.
Hi, Rick Kaufman.
I'll share a thought if I may. Thank everybody for being here. Great discussion. Just to follow up on what Gary just mentioned, expanding the CBD a little bit would provide additional opportunities for developers. And there's been some conversation in the chat that skepticism about whether developers would go forward without the GPLET and other assistance. Development has risk. It's easy to look at things and say, oh, that was easy, but there's economic risk, there's finance risk, there's leasing risk, there's all sorts of risk. And a goal is to have reasonable rents downtown, which means the lower a developer can have its cost, the lower it can afford to have its rent. So things like the GPLET help moderate cost, and that helps developers and operators moderate rents. So I'll just leave that for the group.
No, can I mention something off of that? I think there's a little bit to disentangle about housing and rents are not just purely tied to supply and demand. Typically, if we see increases in housing stock, the reduction of the price of that is a much longer term realization. So when we're seeing, but what we do see in the more immediate term, when you're building luxury type, or I was looking at the One East projects rents, and the cheapest rent there for a 1-bedroom is $1,400 a month. And that's $400 over the recommended 30% rate, which is like deemed affordable housing or affordable for most folks. But what we see is that creates pressure because rent is really based on the valuation, not the intrinsic value of the good. And so when you have higher rents in certain buildings, it says, oh, in Armory Park and in the barrios, you can have a 1-bedroom place that's a little more cushy, and it used to maybe have a rent of $500, but now it's a block away from something that's $1,400. When you're looking out at the valuation in the units, that allows for the market to creep up. And so in the short term, that's why we're seeing some of this increase in rents, even though the supply is supposedly increasing, or it is not supposedly, it is increasing. And so I want to suss that out, that it's not just by adding supply and it's adding supply of any type of housing that we're going to have this reduction in costs. It has to be far more deliberate, and we have to be thinking about, I think this was where that mid-type housing conversation comes into play, and all the other planning and zoning and development practices need to change if we really want to realize these, not just relying on incentive tools.
Yeah, and I think there is a recognition, because the complexity that you so elegantly lay out is real, and it's about how many different tools can be uniquely deployed, each representing a lever to help us accomplish a bit more of the thing that we're looking to accomplish, right? So every tool is going to be different, or I mean, much like any toolkit. If my goal is to blow up a balloon, grabbing a screwdriver out of my toolkit would be my boo-boo, not a failure of the screwdriver, right? And so I think that's a similar kind of conversation. What I do like, though, is I will tell you that there's communication goes an awful long way in solving problems. And all too often, those who develop and those who advocate don't talk to one another. Because as a practical matter, developers have a sort of a set of needs that must be met for them to go and develop. And absent them developing, we have vacant parking lots and dilapidated buildings. That's what we have. And so that's the comparison, right? It's like, we have nothing if we don't do something. We've done something, and now how can we do it better? And so the act of actually listening, saying to a developer, what are your needs? What is your math? What are your risks? And here's our needs. And how can we have something that arrives at that place of balance where no one is purely delighted, but no one is, sort of invisible either, right? So it's you raised some really important questions there. Okay, it is 10:27, Madam Mayor. I know that you're going to keep us held to time, so I just want to say thank you. I got to tell you that it's a big, hairy deal. So I'm using corporate speak there. It's a big, hairy deal to come together to have these kinds of conversations. For those of you that have done it now 7 times, like, tip of the hat to you. For those of you who are residents and citizens and have made time to do it once, I would even tip my hat more, because this isn't what you normally do, and you made time to do it. So it's pretty cool. So let me tell you what's going to happen next really quickly. Monday, you will receive that email. Remember, 2 things will be made available to you in that email. 1, an opportunity to express ideas, comments, suggestions. Please do so, and there's no character limit, as much as you want. 2, it'll ask you, do you want to stay engaged and receive updates as we journey through the rest of the process? Please answer yes, because now that we're in the minivan, let's just stay in the minivan, because cutting and running honors and serves nobody. And so off we go. And I have had a minivan. I have a lot of kids, so that journey ain't always pleasant, but it's the only way that we get places, right? So that's what's going to happen. Remember, 1 specific call to action: people within your circle, people who are your colleagues, your friends, your neighbors, even strangers in the grocery store. Please, please, please encourage them to fill out that survey. It is easily accessible. It is on the city's website, PDFs, English and Spanish. You can print it out, make multiple copies, and share it with folks. They can fill it out and complete it right on the website. All of the ward offices have it. Please, please, please encourage others to engage, because that's what increases the robustness of the input as a practical matter. So we want you to have you do that. And then finally, yeah, this is the last time, right? So I am now going to do a mic drop. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but as an outsider, I want to just make a couple of observations. As an outsider, the very best of who I am, whether as an individual or a community, the very best of who I am, if I am not mindful, can in an instant morph into the very worst of who I can be. And so I love the depth of commitment, the multi-generational root systems that you have. What an extraordinary asset, dear Tucson. The diversity, the cultural vibrancy that all that brings you exists very few other places. That's an asset. And sometimes if that's over amplified, if those gifts are over amplified, we can end up screaming past each other and not communicating with each other. So I just observe that. Honor your strengths, inventory them every day, and watch the volume. Because if I'm shrieking, I know I am, right? And when I'm shrieking, no one can hear me because my information gets lost in the wall of behavior, right? That's been my experience. Watch the power of your conjunctions. There's an absolute transformative differential between but and and. And when we use buts, we deny the complexity, we deny it, everything becomes a black and white, bifurcated, all or nothing environment. And I don't know what world that is. It certainly isn't the world in which I live, right? That place of black and whites and absolutes and either ors. And so cherish the word and just give it a shot. You might be surprised at the power of that difference by itself. And then let me just express gratitude. I have gratitude that is this big. So I'm giving you tangible size. You have an extraordinary community with a powerful intention and leaders that deeply and earnestly want the very best and are willing to do what it takes to be the kind of leaders that will lead us to the place that we all want to arrive at, right? That's an amazing thing. It has been a complete privilege to witness the nucleus of all that is uniquely Tucson as the lucky electron that's just orbiting around your perimeter. And so on behalf of this lucky electron, I honor your nucleus and am immensely grateful for the ability to just ride around in orbit for a little bit. So the last thing, I'll give you the last word. Go back to your chat. All of us have one absolute superpower. It is the magnificence of us. And in one word, I want you to declare your magnificence. And by putting in the chat, I'm going to hold you accountable that that's what you're going to give to this community as we go through from this moment to delivery of the vision that we all see so beautifully. So in the chat, what is that contribution that you're going to make? What can we count on you to deliver? What is your superhuman strength? I love it. Corky Poster is making a commitment to show up. Yes, sir. It kind of begins there. Thank you. Collaboration, beautiful. Patience. Thank you. Passion, persistence, listening, engaging, praying. Thank you. Connecting, positivity, resistance to BS. We need that. Flexibility, follow up on legal issues. Good. Do the best all the time. Put that out. Just remind yourself of that. These are extraordinary words. This is exactly who we are because that's the best of us. And when we show up with the best of us, there is absolutely nothing we will not manage through. There is absolutely nothing that we can't accomplish. So remember that because the work is hard, the complexity is real, the challenges are delicious. And if we show up with this in every moment, in every interaction, in every conversation, we're going to work through every bit of those challenges. So Mayor, I want to just thank you again for your service and the depth of devotion to all of us that it manifests and demonstrates. And to all of you, Tucson, you rock, to quote my kids. And now I have taken you 3 minutes longer than I should have. Oops. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Be safe, be well, and most of all, remain hopeful.
Thank you so much, Poonam. Thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you to the bridge builders.